Hey everyone, I'm David.
I'm George.
And I'm Ori.
And this is Tabletop Animators Create, the show where we watch and discuss the Kickstarter videos we've created for our own clients and give you a little peek behind the scenes of how they're made.
Each of us will take a moment to share one of our recent projects and open it up for some constructive feedback from each other.
Now let's get into the videos. Who wants to start? Do you want to have a different order this time?
Go ahead then. You start it up.
Okay, so I decided to share a project which ended a few months ago for not a board game actually, but for an RPG called Everway. So I guess we should just watch the video and then discuss it.
Yeah, I've actually never seen this one of yours, so.
Really? Oh, then we'll have a genuine reaction.
Yeah, I usually catch your stuff on Facebook when you post it or something. Yeah, I don't recall seeing this one. So yeah. Oh, there we go.
Stories, legends, myths. Our shared humanity is rooted in tales of heroes and epic deeds. Every culture has its own myths, its own symbols, its own inner truth. From a timeless past, those myths call on us to add to our own tales. Stories never die. They are reborn. Everway, the visionary role-playing game first published in 1995, is back in a stunning new edition. A game ahead of its time, Everway influenced a generation of indie RPGs and showed a whole new way to look at role-playing games. Everway is a gateway to 1,000 worlds. Play as a heroic sphere walker that can travel the gates among the multiverse. Create your hero's abilities, background, and world of origin, drawing from over 150 vision images as inspiration. The goal of the game is simple: create epic stories in the tradition of myths from around the world. Everway is diceless. You don't need complex rules, just a system that fuels your imagination with 3 easy-to-learn resolution techniques. The law of karma tells you what should happen. The law of drama tells you what makes the best story. And the law of fortune uses the unique fortune deck to provide an element of chance. Blending these laws together produces astonishing stories of epic deeds. The Silver Anniversary Edition has been redesigned as 2 hardback books with over 700 pages of stunning full-color interiors, 2 collections of vision images, and an expanded tarot-like fortune deck. The game has been reorganized for ease of reference, updated game systems based on player feedback, and adds an expanded core setting with over 100 new creatures. The game contains 4 full-length quests with many full-color maps. Enter the gate into the worlds of Everway and create myths that will live forever.
That thing's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember you showing me that like one time in the chat, like, oh, look what I'm working on. Or you were wondering what looked better. Maybe you posted it on Facebook or something.
Yeah, it was something that I think I took a little bit of advice for, because since this wasn't a board game, the biggest challenge was what to do the video about. Where we have such a regular workflow where we put up the components, we have the environment, and we show the game and how it plays, everything we talked about until now. And yeah, this was a very interesting challenge, how to keep people engaged and it's not a short video, okay? It's a long video, how to keep people engaged. What do you want to start? Do you want me to talk about the background, or do you want to?
Well, should give some feedback first, and then you can explain yourself.
Sure, yeah.
For sure.
I hated
Go
it.
ahead.
I wouldn't back it.
Hit me.
I wouldn't scroll. I'm just kidding. Ori, I remember during that time as you were working on it, and we had a few back and forths. I think that was an incredibly challenging project, probably, to work on, because of the things you mentioned. For me, you have a few different set pieces or areas that, first of all, you're a master of 2D animation, so the fact that there was so much art to work with, and you took the details in each shot for the 2D artwork is incredible, because you've taken the 2D artwork and there's so much of it, and you animated it and brought it to life, which is one of the things I think keeps you engaged when you're watching this kind of thing. But also the artwork is beautiful, of course. I mean, you did so much work, like you can totally tell. But then you have this part,
Yeah, that was great.
And it works so well with the theme, and you just imagine you traveling through the multiverse and all that. And of course, revealing it at the end as a web, to me, like that's cool to see the extent of it, or how big the possibilities could be.
I love to see that file.
And then you have the other set piece, which is the stairwell with the actual components of this game / RPG, which aren't really your typical components, as it's primarily just 2 books and cards. But you've done like such an epic presentation of it on that podium. I remember you working on that, and honestly, I think they were so lucky to have you for this project, because how else do you tell this long story? Like, you've done such a great work. And I remember at the time you were learning a lot of the things you're trying here for the first time, and it still holds up. And yeah, that's my overview comments on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing about this is you had a lot of great art to work with, right? So that's what you lent into, and that's what people want to see too, right? Especially for an RPG book. But yeah, then doing this part here, showing the book, the pages turning, it looks tactile, right? You got some nice, and this is so cool.
No card linen yet. Didn't get the card linen there.
You had some kind of
the book cover, the book leather.
The book cover did have that.
That was good.
Yeah.
Here. Like this web.
Yeah, that web.
Did you model all this?
Do you want to see it? I have it lined up.
Yeah, I want to see this. I want to see this.
Okay. Hold on. All right. So here's our web.
Nice.
So let's tell everyone what program are they looking at here.
Okay. You are now looking at Blender. It's a free to download program, no hidden fees unless you want to donate for their foundation. But it's an amazing, versatile program, and it's really becoming industry standard. I actually was at in a webinar with a industry After Effects artists yesterday, and I asked him, "Is Blender becoming industry standard?" And he says it is. The pipeline, though, isn't. Okay, the integration with Blender and other software isn't quite there yet. That's why it's not being used as often. But movies are being made in this software, and it's very, very easy to jump into. And we mentioned my tutorials, but yeah, so basically you pretty much nailed it on the head of what I was trying to do, like feeling this mass, because the whole thing of the game, that's what the client kept telling me, that it's mythic storytelling. It's big, it's huge. It's supposed to be everything over the top. Yeah, Hercules and demigods and gods and stuff like that. So it started out a little simpler. I started out with a simpler version, which is this.
Right.
And I'm going to now switch to what's called solid mode, which would be much easier to show. And you see there's no textures or anything. So this was my initial design of how do we do a multiverse. And I thought of something a little bit more chaotic. And it started out with these spheres. And each of the spheres has a world inside it, which is literally just one of the pieces of artwork sort of layered on top of the sphere. And plus, I gave it like all these, a brick texture and sort of metallic, and there's also like a shimmering inside. And this is just me playing with Blender, just throwing tons of stuff and seeing what sticks. And there's just so many things you can do. And then I thought of let's connect them and use these tapers, which would sort of fly between one universe and another to see them connecting. And I discovered this shader that's called literally magic shader, magic texture. And I was like, okay, let's see what that does. And it gives you these cool colors. And then I just bumped up the value of the colors so they would start shining and creating an emission.
The glow.
And the tapering effect, is that a stretch? Do you stretch something?
It's actually, each one of these is actually a line, but it's a curve. They're called curves.
Yes.
And you see you can bevel them out. Okay, that gives them the thickness.
Yep.
And then you just select a path, and they just fly by themselves along the path.
Nice.
And you just animate the up and closing. So this was the original multiverse. And eventually I got to this frame and I said, okay, that just looks like the spaghetti monster. That's I want to believe that our reality is a little bit more organized than that. So I kept that. I thought that was for a first scene, that was really cool, you know, seeing how it starts from 1 star and sort of expands and expands and expands. And then I got to the second version, which is, let's just go to solid mode again. Oops, sorry, that can happen. Was this. This was a second iteration.
Nice.
Which was what you would sort of expect if you see, like, if you like Google parallel universes. This is more or less what you would see, how science imagines it. And same thing, you know, I didn't obviously give each one of those orbs a different universe. That would be too much work for stuff that doesn't appear on screen. So a lot of them are just repeated. Only the ones that literally appear on the screen will be different.
Sure. Yeah, you'd never see it.
So I showed this to the client. He said, I love that, but we originally envisioned it more as a spider web. And that's, or a dream catcher. That's what he told me. I was like, okay. How do I even start to model that? That would be way too complicated. I'm not going to now search for spider webs. So I literally just looked for a vector of a spider web of our cartoon type. I layered it on top and turned it into a solid and extruded it. And then this shape, no, not this shape, sorry. This shape just appeared. It literally just appeared. And I started, oh yeah. And this is literally the same spider web inversed and with a motion, with the array modifier duplicated. Nice. Okay, array modifier is basically to duplicate something without necessarily creating a whole new object.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like these sort of satisfying videos where you see a sand which is going in circles and it draws these cool things. And, you know, I just looked at it and I was just like, whoa, okay, that is really cool. And it's sort of really built there organically. First, I showed it up close so you don't see the whole thing. And then I sort of zoom around it. And I felt like just at the end, originally it was in the middle of the video showing the whole thing, but then I decided to put it all the way in the end and have that like as a huge final reveal. And then, you know, the client says, I love the mandala thing you put at the end. I'm like, what's a mandala?
That's exactly what I thought. Oh, it looks like a mandala.
Yeah, what's a mandala? So then I Googled search a mandala. I'm like, hey, that does look what I just did.
Well, so, I mean, that sounds awesome, man. And it reminds me of, you know, when you're a kid, you're doing you get these little things that you put your pen and you kind of like circle it with the gears.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Very happy accident. Very happy accident.
I love those.
Yeah, it works. And there's nothing here. It's literally spheres and lines. Yeah. Nice. And obviously the model, the background is just image of space. It's not even an HDRI, which HDRI is a picture which is 360 degrees and it can light your scene. Here it's literally a stock image. It's actually a stock video that I downloaded of like a cool universe, and that gives also extra glow and with the book scene it gives really cool lighting.
Nice.
So yeah, that's just one tiny corner of this video. There is so much more which you talked a little about, but yeah, I think we should move on.
Awesome.
Do we have any? I mean, I personally don't see. Do you see anything you would improve, Ori, now that you've finished the project?
That's a good thing.
There is one thing. If you want to jump back into the video, where's your stream here? If you go to the image where you see like the monk that like is throwing two people behind him. And this is something I only saw and it really bugged me. Okay, play that scene and see if you can spot the mistake. Oh.
Is it the cloth belt cutting into his body a little bit? Or?
No. No, it's good that you still can't see it. Look at the guy on the left that's flying in the air.
He has no arm? No.
Ah,
He has no
Oh,
head?
he stopped animating.
yes.
Stop. Okay.
I didn't pull the keyframe all the way to the end, and he just
Oh, yeah.
freezes
See,
for
but
like
that's the
3
thing.
frames.
Those are the kinds of things that we'll notice after, and it'll bug us, and we'll be like, I want to go back and fix it. Nobody else would notice it. Nobody else. Like even us on a first, even watching it 2-3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And you know, you see these things in film sometimes and in television. Like, how did nobody, all the hundreds of people that look at this, nobody catch that mistake or nobody, you know, see that happen? But that's how you get used to watching it. And
Well, there's truth in that. Yeah, you just get too familiar with it. You're too close.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was
Well,
like
thank you for sharing, Ori. That again, I remember
sure.
this fondly when you were working on it.
Very proud of the video, and I'm very glad that they did well with the campaign.
Excellent.
Awesome. So yeah, let's move on to the one I'm going to share. Is our most recent video that we worked on for Deliverance. It's still live now, and it's doing very well, which is always nice to see.
Congratulations. Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, again, it's a great looking game. So when you've got an awesome looking game to work with, it always makes things easier. Yeah, let's watch it.
All right. I only saw it once, so.
Okay, cool.
Fading.
That halo there.
I sense a darkness prowling that stirs the memory of a night long
Particle
past.
effects.
The night I watched the devil standing on God as judge, jury, and executioner. The night our war was won. Oh, how you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. The Lord rebuke thee.
Deliverance is a cooperative tactical adventure for
That's cemetery.
Beautiful.
control unique angelic warriors and are charged by God to deliver the saints and send the demonic hordes plaguing them to the abyss. Unleash the full might of your blade and God-given powers to slay your foes in tactical combat. The demons are controlled
Love
by
that.
you and will work together to defeat you through their own custom menu of actions. Beware, for you cannot survive by might alone. The evils of the human realm are bleeding into the spiritual realm. You must stand against this darkness by protecting saints and casting down strongholds through prayer, lest the darkness overtake this town and destroy you. Grow in power by acquiring heavenly treasures and customize your angel with talents that grant new skills. The intelligent enemy AI, darkness card system, and multiple difficulty levels ensure that each encounter will challenge you. Lure the mighty fallen prince from the shadows and defeat them in combat at all costs.
Legions, flee, or meet your judgment at my blade! The Lord rebuke thee! Lead me, O Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies.
Epic.
So well done.
So epic.
There's, obviously we talk a lot about like, the animation part of it and all of that. That is only a part of it because there's the editing skills required to pull it all together. The pre-production skills to conceive of it and try to put it like there's so much work that goes into it. I know a lot of times so far in our episodes we always focus on the 3D or the 2D aspect of it.
True.
But there's certain art in just editing it all together, making it a cohesive storyline, and like combining multiple different voice actors. It sounds like in this one, like, and
I
of
think
course,
it's the same voice actor, no?
it could be.
It is the same.
Sometimes that's what we do, but
Yeah.
But it
Yeah,
sounds
so it
like
is the
different,
same
right?
voice. So when so this is by Andrew Owen, this game, and when he came to me, he already had, and this is I want to maybe talk about the next time more closely the 2D parts of it, because he had already done like his own 2D video, and which was nice and it was good, but I'm like, yeah, we can really do a lot with the artwork, and I know so my buddy Noah Conti, he does all the 2D work and like the motion graphics. So I'd love to get him on next time to talk a little bit more about how he kind of took what was there and then just like blew it up to 1,000%.
Oh yeah.
Into what it was. But I like what you said, George, and yeah, that'd be cool to talk about, because I definitely, that's the first thing I try and do is when I'm given, first of all, sometimes we're given music, I don't know about you guys, and the voiceover, and sometimes we look for it ourselves. So he already had the voiceover for the 2D sections, and I said, okay, but we need to show the gameplay. So let's write a script for the 3D section, and we kind of did that back and forth together. And then he had his same voiceover artist just do it in kind of a more non-angelic voice, right? That was without the kind of booming, sound of the voice. And and then what I do is I'll usually record before he gets that, because it takes a little longer to get that recorded. I'll record like a temp track of myself just to get the timing down, so I know in my head, okay, this section's about 40 seconds, and this is this long, and this is this long. So that when I go and look for music, I can kind of read it out loud to the music, so I can envision kind of those more epic cuts, right? Because this is kind of a 3-part, right? It's the intro.
I want a behind-the-scenes video of you doing that. I do that too sometimes too, and I get into it too, and I'm all over. It's like singing in the shower. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure.
I definitely read it. I try and I didn't know he wanted like a more natural voice for that. So when I was reading it, the middle part, the new part, I was like,
epic voice,
very epic voice, But I try and envision the timing, because I also need to, you'll get a read, but then we need extra time to show what we're going to show during it, right?
There's so many things you discover when you move from script to actual animation, where there's like lines which you plan to show this specific action, and you have just a very short line, but it turns out you need a lot more time to show it.
Exactly.
And ideally, you don't want to have dead time, time where there's no voiceover, or the action visually isn't interesting enough, or that you need to show too many things at once and it becomes a mess. And you hit that balance perfectly with this video.
Thanks.
And we just watched one of my favorite effects that you use in a lot of your videos, and it's that the cards or elements come to the camera and then they get locked in. And then they move with the camera, and then they get unlocked, and then they go away. That is super cool. I still haven't actually tried it to see how I could do it in Blender, but it's just a super cool effect. And then, we talked about in the last episode, the attention to detail that you give to all the pieces as they move. It's as if like a hand, we talked about a hand coming in and moving them. There's a subtleties in the animation, like right here. All right.
It's so good. What's happening to the screen when they land? Is it?
I'm shaking the camera. Like I'm keyframing the camera.
It's actually keyframing the camera. Okay, you see, I get lazy. I just throw an After Effects preset on it.
So that's you can do it after and do a shake, but then it's a 2D shake, right?
Yeah, it's one that copies, like stretches the frame. It like mirrors the frame, so it catches the same colors. Okay. And if you overdo it, it will be obviously you can notice it. And I had clients which are like, why is the frame repeating at that specific moment? And I was like, okay, we'll do it a different way.
Otherwise you can always punch in and then do it. So
that's also true.
I punch in. You'll in the next video, like when we talk about mine, I did that after. I'm like, ooh, it would be cool if the camera shakes here. I should have done it in 3D, because I like what David's saying, is that all the elements will kind of move in layers because you're moving it in 3D.
Yeah, but that's one, again, having been an animator for 15 years. I do always try and give things the proper weight. I mean, that's just how I'm used to doing it. When things land, they settle. Nothing, just like going up and down, off and side to side. Everything has. We always talk about things make interesting when it's rotating in all axes, right? So,
and the highlight effects here, are they in post?
I was going to ask that.
all the highlight effects, everything is done by Noah in After Effects.
Nice.
Oh,
I'll
yes.
show what I see, because I think one thing, again, we were talking about that, because I'll always show a rough version to my clients to kind of approve the whole overall thing. And this is what I see when I'm working on it. I see things in gray. I don't necessarily I don't need all the environment information. So I just keep kind of the main part, so I can, especially if I'm pushing in from far away, because again, Noah does a great job putting together, and Marcus works on the environments sometimes too, and I always want to show them off a little bit, so all that work is shown. But yeah, this is what I'm seeing. And yeah, as far as the I'll go with what you're talking about, when things are, it's called parenting, right? So
yes, parenting into the camera.
So when we work in 3D, a lot of things, they have controls, and when you move a control, that's what moves the objects, right? And so I'll usually have 2 controls on an object, and let's go to the cards here. There we go. So you'll see this is the kind of what's called the top controller, the parent control, and then these are the sub controllers. So what I'll do is I'll parent, or I'll constrain the top controller for all the cards to the camera, so that when you see it in this view, you see it's following the camera. This thing is following the camera, exactly what it's doing. And then
Nice.
and when they come in, you'll see the yellow ones move in, right? So, and then when I want to move them, kind of, and you unparent them, and you'll key that, which the keys are right here in the timeline, and then you just
Nice.
and then
I don't think Blender has that option to parent keyframe parenting.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if you can parent like an empty to the camera and then parent the cards to the empty. I'll have to see if you can animate that. Yeah, it's a really cool trick that you have in Maya there. I hope. Yeah, I wish I'm gonna try to replicate it.
Yeah,
I like the look of
imagine
that.
there must be something. Yeah, because you want, again, a lot of times it's really hard to bring something up and then especially if the camera's moving, and then to like match.
I do that all the time, but yeah, it's
that must be such a pain in the butt.
I don't want to get in too technical, but the way I solved it in my latest video for Dino Discovery is I had the camera parented to the cards, and then I literally duplicated the same camera that isn't parented, and it moves away.
Oh, cool.
So it's not parented, and it sort of leaves the cards behind.
It's a
So I
smart
just,
trick, actually.
yeah, and it's exactly the same frame because it starts from the same position. I wanted to ask you, David, about the environment a little.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would love to know, even though that's not your department, right?
No.
How much of this was modeled, like specifically for the video?
Nothing.
And I was wondering about those sort of effects, particle effects that were rising in the background, this sort of mist and lights. So I was really wondering how you got that effect achieved.
So let's go back to the video. So that's here. Oh no, sorry, the 3D part.
The first shot
Yeah,
of the
the
town
first
from
shot.
above.
Yeah, so you can see
Yes.
that. Again, here you can see the big difference between what that is and then what I see. But yeah, honestly, that's the great thing is like a lot of this stuff we find for free online. Because if we had to model all this from scratch, the budget would be huge, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You need hours and hours. So yeah, what's great is we try and find as much things as we can, and we kind of kit bash it together. And then Noah's a whiz at texturing and stuff like that. But I think for stuff like the church, he modeled because we wanted it to look like the church that was in the
Wow.
right here at the bottom there.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you see it right here.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
And-
amazing.
And that was the whole thing. When I first saw this and we were thinking, oh, where can we put our environment? I'm like, well, the church is in the middle of town. It's a Christian themed game. I'm like, let's put it by the church. And, there's usually like, a cemetery by the church. So that's kind of where that inspiration came from. But I was like, yeah, let's make it look just like, oh, this there.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
There it is.
Nice. So yeah, you did location scouting in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from the game. Obviously, we took this kind of blurry was in the art, so I was like, yeah, can we recreate that for the 3D scene, and that's what Noah did. And a lot of the particle stuff. And again, maybe you can ask him more next time. But yeah, those are just a lot of over the years collecting different assets, elements that you can just layer on top of each other. So you don't have to create them from scratch every time. You just kind of mix and match them and put them where you need them.
And you're adding volumetrics, right?
Volumetrics, like
for the lighting.
For the lighting.
Yeah, the mist.
Yeah,
is,
the mist. I'm assuming.
That first shot from above there, where you got the inspiration, I'm like, yeah, that looks like Canada during winter.
Nice.
Subliminally.
This was a fun one to work on, and
dice rolls are top notch. It really looks like a real dice roll.
So what I do for that, I just spent a few hours doing 3 different dice rolls, and now what I do is I have those in a separate file. I'll bring them in, and then I'll parent the new dice and hide the old one, and then so I don't have to redo that animation every single time.
Great. It's all about that. It's all about doing something once and then just redoing it and just saving time, because time is like the biggest commodity here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, let's we can move on to George's.
Anything you want to change?
Congrats. Anything I want to change? Honestly, we actually had time to change a bunch of little things, like these coins right here. For some reason, I had left a pile of them, and they were like intersecting all these dudes. And it ended up in almost every shot, not every shot, but like 2 or 3 big shots. Like here, you saw them behind here. I was like, oh man, how did I forget that? It was something when I passed the file to Noah. The visibility for some reason turned, like I had them off in mine, but they turned on for some reason, some glitch. But we had time to hide them and re-render.
I had a project I made some renders for, and I had imported some stuff, and some other stuff came with whatever I imported, and there weren't even parts from that game, and they were like little discs, wooden discs. And thankfully it was just like picture renders, and the client was, what are these components from? I didn't even see those. Yeah, they were so small, but they were there. Yeah,
well, that's the kind of thing. Like I didn't notice them the first few times I watched his render, and then I was like, oh wait a minute. So yeah, luckily, I don't know. Honestly, I don't. Yeah, again, this being our latest one, I think I'm getting better and better at it. But yeah, having the time to go in and fix things that you notice is always a good thing. Because if this was unfortunately some people, the video, they don't contact you until a few weeks before, so you're bumping up to their launch date, so you don't have time to fix anything. You have to kind of render it once and hope that it
looks good. How long did it take to render? Just so people understand how long renders actually take for 3D.
So I think for like Noah, he uses Arnold, and that was it Arnold? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. But yeah, I think he got it to a minute or 2 per frame, and that whole thing's about probably 3,000.
Well, yeah, exactly. It takes a long
time. Do the math.
Yeah. Again, we can ask him more about the rendering.
And that's an interesting question to ask you guys too, is do you render the whole thing all at once, or do you render in pieces? Because I find, depending on the project, sometimes I have multiple Blender files for different scenes.
So let's define rendering too, if people don't know. So rendering is basically taking it from, again, what you see in here, and adding all the lights and making it so it looks like the final image.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. The computer does its thing. It calculates all the bouncing lights and all the reflections and all that stuff, and then it looks pretty.
Yeah.
But again, that's
so is the whole video there for you, David? Like in that one file?
It depends. Certain parts. I think most of the time we do render it in one pass. But nice. Certain times, if there's a certain effect we need, then we'll hide that stuff and render it. Yeah, in this, it would have all been in one pass because nothing was
incredible.
Oh, when you're in that shot where like the little guys are going into the hole, right?
Yes.
So we would render those separately because they need to be able to disappear into the hole, right? So yeah.
Neat. Awesome.
Nice.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys. And let's go to yours.
I wanted to share one of our latest ones for Side Room Games, Mechanical Beast. It was a challenging project in a sense because, they are launching this new Kickstarter, and it's a lightweight card game. So it was a challenge to find a way to showcase the game and get people to understand sort of how to play a little bit. But my goal was to create, like, how do we create, because they had a cool concept, a cool story, like the game takes place inside this giant robot. But there wasn't a lot of 2D artwork to play with.
Mm.
So let's watch it, and then I'll explain what we came up with.
Sorry.
No, we're good.
Can you lower the volume
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
tad bit?
I'm gonna. There we go.
There's my post shakes.
The creature was all humanity hoped for, a sentient robot with the capacity to self-improve by building itself new modules to solve the needs of the population, big and small. But it's now out of control, grown and changed so much we have no idea how to shut it off. Our original blueprints are useless. The only way is to go inside, into the bowels of the beast, find its control room, activate the off switch, and then escape before it collapses entirely.
That's cool.
Amazing.
Mechanical
So
Beast,
cool.
solo, co-op, or competitive tile-laying manipulation puzzle game for 1 to 4 players, taking the roles of engineers who, together with their android helper, must explore the inside of a giant robot. During the first part of the game, move around inside the beast, explore rooms, and grow the maze in search of the control room. Some doors will close right behind you, forcing you to find alternative paths. Activate gears within to reshape the robot, and thus the maze. When the off switch is found and turned off, the game turns into an exciting and challenging escape as rooms start to collapse all around you. As before, you can change the layout of the rooms to aid you in finding the exit. To win, you must rescue every worker inside, and quickly, along with your trusty android. Make your way to the exit before the robot locks down, trapping you forever inside its bowels. Mechanical Beast, now on Kickstarter. Brought to you by Sideroom Games.
Excellent.
Love it.
And then there's a little bit at the end, if you don't mind.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I can't believe this made it in.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Just to show who's paying attention.
Yes. Well, that was like, that ending scene was like my little celebratory moment, because that was the first time I would actually have an animated character in my videos. Because I have to say, inspired by you, especially Ori, with like, you have had many videos in the past where I'm like, how did you do this? How do you, because you have these zombies, you had the, obviously the whole sequence, like that whole cinematic sequence you had for this other game. Anyway, super inspired by you. And then you shared, how, the tools you use, like Mixamo and things like that. And I was intimidated at first, but then I had my modeler, send me the model in that pose, and I was able to take it to that website. And I was surprised with, how easy it was to breathe some life to the model. So just to back up a little bit, what I was saying was, it was a challenging video in the sense that, as you saw for the majority of the gameplay, your videos had like all these crazy minis and like all these cards and things. This is a fairly lightweight, simple game as far as components.
Meeples and tiles.
Meeples and tiles, and it's super fun. I've actually played this game, which also helps me to get into that world. But I love that concept, as I mentioned before. You're inside a robot, and then it starts to collapse, which is a cool pivotal moment in the game. So the client had no idea that I decided to try out showing the robot. As you saw at the beginning, like I'll share my screen if you don't mind.
Yeah.
This artwork is the first piece of artwork I saw for the game, and that would end up being the cover, as you saw. And then the other 2D artwork that you saw in the game, those are the only 2 things that we had for the game. So it was a challenge to, have a 2D intro that we usually do, and then, bring that to life, and then kind of transition to the box, and then show the gameplay a little bit. We had to come up with the script as well from scratch, and it was from the perspective of the scientist, working at that lab. And this here is the first iteration of the robot that I got from my 3D modeler. It wasn't complete yet, but it gave me sort of a, I wanted to test size. I wanted to test, like, is this going to even work? And I created a test animation here with just that. It wasn't moving or anything, but I wanted to see, like, can I get some interesting angles with the camera? Like, what does it look like from below? Can I get some, like, can I make it feel like it's big? And what would the background look like? And then
I love the set that you've got in there.
Yeah, where did he find that background? It's very good.
That's actually just an HDRI.
Wow.
Yeah. Is it from the HRI Haven?
Yeah, and it's like an airport hangar, or I can't remember what it is.
So good. It's perfect.
It is.
Yeah,
Honestly,
colors
I would have
yeah.
thought it was 3D also.
Yeah, it's basically, that's what it is. You can kind of see it here.
That's crazy.
And then just has a red light on it. And then this is the dancing scene. But yeah.
Nice.
Honestly, that was the first time I was playing around with this, and I had so much fun. And I think what happened to me, it was the idea of how do I expand the universe and a bit of the world, and like, how can I go inside the robot? That was
a great moment. Yeah.
And that was a happy accident as well, because initially I had all these crazy ideas for like creating the world that we're going to play the game in inside the robot, and then when the camera flies through the chest, we're inside that room. But I just couldn't get it to look right, so I thought, well, that's a perfect opportunity to show the title instead, and then cop out a little bit.
Perfect. I didn't even think about it as a cop out. I thought it was a perfect introduction.
Yeah.
It was.
Wow,
yeah.
That's great. I really appreciate that. But yeah, I had so much fun doing this, and the client was very surprised at the end, which is, we talked about that moment of like sharing something with the client, and I couldn't wait for them to see it, because I knew how excited they were about the concept and the game, and I felt like I went quite above and beyond, but I was just so proud of it too at the same time. Anyway, it was just it was a good example for me. Is like, how do I make the most of even the simplest concept, perhaps for a video or a game. It was a lot of fun to do, and I can't wait to do more like of this kind of stuff in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the great thing, again, about hiring any of us. We're artists, and we want to make stuff cool. So no matter what, the quote is or estimate is or what they're paying, we always want to kind of push it that little extra, right? Just to
push the envelope.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sometimes too much.
It's true, yeah, but it's always evident in your videos, like.
But I also totally didn't let you guys critique it at all, because I went on and on about the because I was excited about that.
No, again, there's
it's perfect. There's nothing to say.
Yeah,
that's the worst when you're sharing something and they say it's perfect. Yeah, so you're like, you feel really bad.
I mean,
the
again,
last episode of Tabletop Animators, because we fight about it, right?
I haven't tried the Mixamo, because I'm sure that would work.
Do you want to say 2 words? We haven't talked about what Mixamo is, so I think we should mention it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I learned it from you, Ori, so you might as well do the honors.
So Mixamo is basically like there's stock images and stock video and stock music. So this is stock capture animation. And it has just a free, and I might have to mention this is free. You just need an Adobe account. It has free animations for anything you can imagine, from fighting and soldiers and ninjas and dancing, and just it's a lot of physical things. You won't find like very nuanced things that are very small that you would usually hand animate, because animating by hand something like this, David, how long would that take?
Oh yeah, I mean, how long is this little shot? Like a few seconds?
Yeah, this is 300 frames.
Yeah, so 300 frames. When you're talking about in the industry, working, say, on a television cartoon show for kids, standard quota for a week is 30 seconds a week, right?
Wow.
Okay. When you jump up to something like doing an animated show for, like, say, Netflix, you're talking half that, 10 to 15 seconds a week. When you're jumping to Disney, Pixar level, those animators are doing about 3 seconds of animation a week.
A week. Right? Oh my God.
Yeah. And also, with this kind of stuff, it's motion capture. A lot of that stuff is video games and and film, right, to get you there quicker as well. But yeah, it's cool. Again, I haven't tried this, but again, it's also I think
And
my
I
animation,
imagine there isn't.
I would want to keyframe this, but yeah, it would take me probably a full, probably 2 days to get something polished.
And we talked about, like budgets for the board game industry are a lot lower than what we're used to outside of the board game industry.
sure,
So
yeah.
you gotta have to find these kinds
Yeah.
of shortcuts to give that value back to the client. To be able to say like, well, this is us doing the best that we can to maximize the talents and the things that we can bring to, and make the video look better than it ever could with that budget, right? So, and I have to add. This is also this is every time I dance, people walk away like this to avoid me.
I don't know about this. That's funny.
So one more thing I want to mention about Mixamo, you had your model, but you need what's called a rig. You need bones inside the model to tell it where the head is, where the hands are, where the legs are. So Mixamo comes with a magic button, which you press, and it automatically finds, you like bring in a T-pose, and it will automatically find where everything is, and it will automatically rig it. It's really crazy. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to do things like that.
We can get into rigs next time.
Yeah, that could.
Yeah, that's something else when you try and explain to people that aren't in the industry. Oh, what's a rig? Oh, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, great job, George. It's another good one.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that about wraps it up for today's episode. Thanks for watching, and if you want to contact any of us, you can find all our information in the description below.
We honestly would love to hear from you guys. If you have any suggestions on any topics you would like us to discuss, whether as we create things or as we look at other Kickstarter videos, please leave a comment and let us know.
And if you enjoyed what you saw and want to see more, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to be notified when we post a new episode. So until next time, stay animated.
Stay animated. How was that? Did it work?
We were off a little bit. That's cool.
Give us a like if you like that. Yeah.
We'll work on the time. We'll work on the time.
Use your rig and stay animated.
There we go.